She was never supposed to touch a microphone. She was supposed to stand in the back, smile on cue, and make a famous man look generous. Instead, in front of 500 VIPs and 2 million people watching live, an 11-year-old girl from Compton walked into a trap that should have ruined her life, and somehow tore down an empire built on lies. This is how it started. Not with lights. With heat that didn't work. Zara Williams lived in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment where the heater only worked in one room. Her mom, a night shift nurse at County General, slept in stolen 3-hour chunks between double shifts. Zara cooked boxed mac and cheese for her little brothers, helped them with homework, and learned very young that in their house one question ruled every dream. Can we afford it? The answer was almost always no. What they did have was church. Every Sunday, Zara stood in the second row of the New Hope Baptist Choir. At 5, she just mimicked the older girls. By 7, something changed. After one service, her choir director, Ms. Johnson, pulled Zara's mom aside. "Your daughter has perfect pitch," she said. "1 in 10,000 can do what she does. She hears notes the rest of us don't even notice." Zara's mom smiled, pride fighting through exhaustion. "So, what do we do with that?" "Berkeley Juilliard real training," Ms. Johnson said. Then her voice dropped. "But it costs money we don't have." So Zara sang where it was free. She sang at church. She sang in the struggling choir at Jefferson Elementary, where the music budget had been slashed 3 years in a row. And at night, after her brothers fell asleep, she sang into a cheap pillow, copying vocal runs from glitchy YouTube videos on her mom's old phone. She didn't know her range was rare. D3 in her chest, all the way up to a piercing G6 in whistle register. Notes that sounded like wind chimes if wind chimes could cry. She just knew it felt like breathing. Then one letter changed everything. Jefferson Elementary had been selected to perform at a high-profile charity gala. The headliner? Chase Hendricks. For platinum albums. 2 Grammys. Endorsement deals with Pepsi, Nike, and a reputation as the voice of a generation. His team called a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for underprivileged kids. The media called him generous. Payout goal. 1 feel-good night a year that made the whole industry clap. 20 kids would stand behind him as a choir. Matching white shirts, black pants, background decoration for a superstar. When Zara's mom bought her a new white blouse from the discount store, she left the tag on until the morning of the event. "If something goes wrong, we return it," she said quietly. Nothing was supposed to go wrong. But 4 hours before he dragged her on stage, before the world knew her name, Zara was just another nervous kid standing in the wings of the Orpheum Theater. She could feel the stage hum, see the empty seats waiting to be filled, smell the metal of the mic stands and the cologne of people who were paid to be confident. "Stay backstage. Stay quiet," a production assistant warned the kids. Zara tried, until she heard that song, Higher Ground, the anthem that made Chase Hendricks a legend, the one every fan waited for. The one with the impossible high note at the end, one perfect whistle tone that supposedly only he could hit. The note that made him $2 million, according to every article. Zara edged closer to the curtains, curiosity louder than fear. Out on stage, Chase rehearsed with his band. His voice was smooth, practiced. He glided through the verse, slid into the pre-chorus. Years of training wrapped in money. But as the melody climbed, Zara's brow furrowed. She knew where that final note lived. C6, 1046 hertz. She'd hit it herself, quietly, in her bedroom. Chase reached for it and cracked. His voice broke, almost a tone and a half too low. Somewhere around an A5, his throat betrayed him. He stopped, frustration flashing across his face. "Bring the track up higher on that section," he snapped to the sound engineer. "I need more support." The engineer adjusted something on the board. They tried again. This time, when Chase hit the note, it was perfect. Too perfect. Zara froze. Her brain didn't hear applause. It heard numbers. Overtones. The tiny metallic shimmer of something processed. The way the note sat on top of the band instead of inside it. That wasn't a live voice. That was a recording. A backing track. Someone else's sound. Her heart hammered. She had perfect pitch. She'd spent 6 years obsessing over details nobody cared about. Now, for the first time, it felt like a weapon. She went back to the risers, lips pressed tight. Who would believe an 11-year-old girl from Compton over a man with Grammys? Hours later, when he pointed at her from the stage and said, "You, the black girl in the back, come here," she finally understood. He'd seen her in the wings. He knew she knew. This wasn't a chance to shine. It was an execution. Pause for a second and put yourself in Zara's shoes. If a superstar who could destroy your life called you out in front of millions, would you step forward or pretend you hadn't heard him? Tell me honestly in the comments, because that choice is where courage or silence begins. As Chase's hand closed around her shoulder and he dragged her under the lights, one thought burned in her mind. If you're willing to lie to the world for 15 years, what are you willing to do to a child who knows the truth? And when the band kicked into higher ground and he leaned in and whispered, "Fail quietly, kid," into a dead mic, was he warning her or daring her? She could feel his breath on her ear. The crowd roared for a moment, then fell into a strange, hungry silence. People love a show. They love it even more when they smell blood. Zara stood center stage, drowned in light, her discount store blouse glowing white on the big screens. Her hands shook so hard she had to lock her fingers around the microphone to hide it. "Let's see if you can really sing," Chase said, voice booming for the audience now. "Or if you're just taking up space." The band punched in the opening chords of Higher Ground, the song that built his career, the song she knew he couldn't truly sing. Her mouth went dry. She could have done what he expected: stumble, choke, miss the note, become a meme, and prove he was the real artist. Instead, a different sentence slipped out of her mouth. Quiet. Dangerous. Mr. Hendricks. The room tensed. No one interrupted Chase on his own stage. He turned slowly. "Yes. Can you turn off the backing track?" A sound went through the theater, half laugh, half gasp. Chase blinked. "What?" "The track," she repeated, voice a little louder. "Can you turn it off? I want to sing it for real." Backstage, a tech froze over the soundboard. In the audience, a few industry people sat forward. There was something in her tone. Not arrogance. Not attitude. Certainty. "The backing track is part of the arrangement," Chase said, smiling through gritted teeth. "Just follow along, sweetheart." "But you sang it without the track at soundcheck," Zara said. "You did it alone." That cracked his smile. The murmur in the seats thickened, like a storm building. He leaned in. "Soundcheck is different from performance." "Then," she swallowed hard, "then can you sing it first, without the track, so I can hear how you do it?" You could feel the camera zoom in. She wasn't just asking a question. She was lighting a fuse. Chase laughed, sharp and brittle. "You want me to audition for you?" "No, sir," she said. "I just want to see if you can actually hit the note." The theater exploded. Gasps. A few cruel laughs. Some in shock, some in delight. This was no longer a charity gala. This was a trial. For a beat, all you could hear was Chase's jaw clench. "Of course I can hit the note," he snapped. "I've been hitting it for 15 years. "Then show me," she said. "Show us," she didn't add. The pressure flipped. Suddenly the man who'd hauled a child onto the stage to humiliate her was the one being dared. Whether you've been in a situation where someone powerful tried to embarrass you or not, you know this feeling, the moment the script could flip. If stories about standing up to that kind of pressure mean something to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss how this one explodes from here. Chase whipped around to the sound engineer. "Kill the track. All of it." The band looked uneasy. Still, the engineer's finger hovered, then pressed. The lush mix in Zara's ears thinned to bare instruments. No more invisible safety net. Chase took a step forward, rolling his shoulders, setting his face for war. He raised his mic. He sang. The first verse was fine. Good even. This was a man who'd paid for the best training. The room started to unclench. Maybe people thought, the kid's just confused. Then came the climb. Pre-chorus. Higher and higher. Zara watched his neck muscles tighten. His posture changed. The little tell singers have when they're pushing past their limit. D5. E5. A 5. His voice started to wobble at the edges. The band, sensing the milestone, pulled back to give him space. All attention tunneled to one moment. He reached for the C6 that made him a legend. His throat gave out. The note shattered into a cracked, painful yelp, a full step and a half too low. Not even close. He stopped dead, laughing nervously. Dry throat, he said. Long show. That's why we use a track, to protect the voice. Nobody laughed with him. Zara didn't blink. You didn't hit it, she said softly. But in a room this quiet, soft sound sounded like a gunshot. If you were Chase, with your lie cracking in front of millions, would you double down on the story, or finally admit the truth? He turned on her like she'd just stabbed him. I told you, he hissed into the live mic, my voice is tired. But the words hit the screens, went straight out to the live stream, bounced into 2 million phones around the world. You could practically see the comments flying already. Zara's fear burned into something else. Focus. I've heard your album, she said, still respectful, still deadly. You hit that note 27 times. I counted. And in every live video online. It's perfect. Every single time. People started pulling out their phones, searching, fact-checking in real time. That's the thing about lies now. They have to outrun the internet. What are you trying to say? Chase demanded, veneer crumbling. I have perfect pitch, Zara said. I can hear frequencies. The note on your album is 1046 hertz. C6. What you just sang was 932. A-sharp 5. A murmur ripped through the crowd. Somewhere, a musician in the back whispered, she's right. And the voice on the record, she glanced out at the sea of faces, at the red tally lights on the cameras. Doesn't sound like you. It sounds like a woman. I looked at the credits. Additional vocals, Sophia Mitchell. The theater erupted. Journalists' fingers flew. Fans argued in whispers. Some faces showed denial. Others had the look of people who'd suspected something was off and were finally hearing proof. Listen, little girl, Chase began, but she was done being little. I know what I heard at soundcheck, she said. I know what I'm hearing now. That note isn't yours. You've been lip-syncing it for 15 years. He grabbed her arm. Not hard enough to leave a bruise. Hard enough to send a message. We're done here, he muttered, trying to drag her out of frame. Before he could, a new voice cut through the noise. Actually, she's right. The sound engineer stepped out from the wings. The man whose fingers had started that backing track thousands of times. He looked like he might throw up. I've been running your shows for 5 years, Chase, he said, palms sweating against the mic, every single night. I trigger that whistle note from a backing track. You never sing it live. Not once. The room went quiet in a new way. Not a shock. Confirmation. You're fired, Chase choked. I know, the engineer said. But she's 11 and she's braver than I've been. For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. Then a voice from the audience cut through. Prove her wrong. Sing it again. More voices joined in. Yeah, sing it right. Do it without the track. A tide was turning, and Chase could feel it dragging at his ankles. This is insane, he shouted. You're all going to believe some kid over me? I have 2 Grammys. For million albums sold. Then hit. The note, someone yelled back. He spun on Zara, something ugly in his eyes. Fear dressed as rage. You think you're so smart, he snarled. Fine. You sing it. No warm-up, no second chances. Right now. Every eye in the room snapped to her. Every camera followed. The trap he'd set for her at the start of the night was finally sprung. Only now it was his last weapon. If you were Zara's friend sitting in that choir, watching this play out, would you beg her to back down or tell her to open her mouth and burn the lie to the ground? Drop your answer in the comments, because this is the moment most of us only ever face in our heads. Ms. Johnson's voice floated from the dark where the kids stood. You can do this, baby. Sing like you do at church. Zara closed her eyes. She could hear her grandma from that morning. If someone tries to make you small, you stand tall. She took one breath, then another. When she opened her eyes, she nodded to the band. From the top, she said. The piano started. The drums slid in. And an 11-year-old who had everything to lose opened her mouth to sing the song that wasn't supposed to belong to her, aiming straight for the note that had made a man a millionaire. Would her voice hold, or would the pressure finally crush her? The first word came out as a whisper. By the third line, it was a flame. Zara didn't sing like a contestant. She sang like a girl who'd spent years in the second row of a small church, trying to touch something bigger than herself. The first verse of Higher Ground sat low, safe. She shaped every vowel, letting each consonant land. The room settled, lulled by the familiarity of a hit they'd heard 1,000 times, except they'd never heard this. When she hit the pre-chorus, her voice opened wider. The tones stayed clear, but there was a rawness, an ache, that Chase's polished version never had. This wasn't a performance. It was a testimony. On the second row of the balcony, Yolanda Carter, a legendary R&B singer brought in as a gala judge, leaned forward, tears already glistening. The melody climbed. D5, E5, F5. Zara moved through the gears of her voice without strain. No tightened neck, no scrunched face. Just control, built quietly over years of singing into cheap pillows. The bridge approached. The place where Chase had cracked. The place she'd watched him collapse in front of the world. Everyone held their breath. Zara didn't flinch. She shifted into her upper register like stepping onto a staircase she'd walked 100 times. G5, A5, B5. The note shimmered in the air. And then she went for the C6. It flew out of her like it belonged there. Pure. Focused. A crystal-clear whistle tone that sliced through the theater and made people physically jolt. She stayed there. 1 second. 2, 3, 4. The sound didn't waver. Then, because some part of her wanted to prove a point even though she hadn't known she needed to make, she took it higher. D6, E6, F6. Her face barely changed. No struggle. Just that impossibly high sound, ringing like a bell in a room that had gone absolutely still. Backstage, the band stared, mouths open. Even the sound engineer, who had heard every cheat, every trick, felt goosebumps race up his arms. Finally, she rode the note back down. F6, C6, A5, F5. Then into the final chorus, completely unleashed now. All the fear that had been sitting in her chest since he called her out had converted into fuel. By the time she sang the last word and let it fade, the Orpheum was frozen. It felt like the world took one collective inhale. Then it detonated. 500 people leapt to their feet. Screams, applause, tears. The kids from Jefferson's choir jumped up and down in the shadows. Ms. Johnson had both hands over her mouth, shoulders shaking. Online, the live stream chat exploded so fast the text blurred. Within 30 seconds, the clip of Zara hitting that note was ripped, reposted, and shared tens of thousands of times. Within a minute, her name was trending worldwide. If stories like this, where one honest voice slices through a wall of power, are the kind of moments you don't want to miss, hit subscribe now. The way this single performance sets off a chain reaction in the industry is something you're going to want to see as it all unravels. Down front, Yolanda stood, still clapping, tears on her cheeks. That, she said into her mic, voice thick, is the best thing I have ever heard from an 11-year-old in my career. Baby, you didn't just hit that note. You owned it. Beside her, Marcus Webb, a producer who'd worked with Alicia Keys and Kendrick Lamar, rose slowly, eyes never leaving Zara. I need to say something, he said. The room hushed again. I mixed Chase's first album, he confessed. I was there when Higher Ground was made. I've heard that whistle note 1,000 times because it's not his voice. It's Sophia Mitchell, a session singer from Atlanta. She got $2,000 and an NDA. No credit, no fame. A collective gasp rolled through the theater. On stage, Chase looked like the ground had opened under him. I stayed quiet, Marcus went on, voice shaking, because that's what this business teaches you. Protect the star. Protect the money. But I'm done protecting lies, especially when an 11-year-old has more courage than I've managed in 30 years. Journalists were already typing, some on the verge of standing to get better reception for their breaking news posts. Cameras swung away from glittering centerpieces and locked onto one story, a child calling out a giant. Chase tried to speak, tried to pull the moment back under control. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. Everyone uses backing tracks. Beyoncé uses tracks. This is normal. Beyoncé doesn't pretend the track is live, Yolanda fired back. She doesn't sell tickets and lip sync, then call it a vocal miracle. That's fraud, Chase. He turned on Zara one more time, dropping his voice low enough that he thought only she would hear. "You're going to regret this," he said. Your school. You're nobody's teacher. I'll make sure you never work in this industry. Ever." He forgot her mic was still hot. "I'm 11, she said, voice steady enough to cut glass. "I don't work in the industry. I just sing because I love it. You can't take that away from me, but maybe someone should take it away from you." The crowd erupted again, but under the noise, one question lingered. What happens when a man with everything to lose decides his best move is to destroy a child who just told the truth? The glittering night turned into a war by morning. Backstage, chaos swallowed the theater. PR reps argued in corners. Event organizers screamed into phones. Chase vanished into a hallway surrounded by security and lawyers, his future leaking away one tweet at a time. Zara sat on a metal folding chair, legs dangling, still in her white blouse. The adrenaline had burned off, leaving a hollow ache. Her mom called from the hospital, voice frantic. "Baby, what happened? Are you okay? They're talking about you on the news." "I'm fine, Mama, Zara lid. Ms. Johnson is here." She wasn't fine, and the people who wanted her silent knew it. An hour later, a man in a suit that probably cost more than her mom, made in 6 months, walked into the dressing room. "Miss Williams," he said, smile polished. "I'm Robert Kraft. I represent Mr. Hendricks." Ms. Johnson stepped between them. "She's 11. You don't talk to her without her mother present." "I'm not here to intimidate anyone," he said smoothly. "I'm here to resolve an unfortunate misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Ms. Johnson shot back. "Your client sold someone else's voice as his own. That's fraud." Kraft's smile didn't waver. The music industry is complex. Artists use support tracks, studio enhancements. Standard practice. What happened tonight was a child making serious accusations without understanding context. Unfortunately, it caused Mr. Hendricks significant harm. Sponsors are panicking. Tours are at risk. We're talking millions in damages. The word damages sat heavy in the air. "Are you threatening to sue a child?" Ms. Johnson asked. "Of course not," Kraft said. "We're offering a solution." He took out a document, slid it across the table. Ms. Johnson read, her face darkening line by line. "This says she admits to lying," Ms. Johnson said slowly. "That she was seeking attention. That she apologizes for defaming him." In exchange, Kraft said, Mr. Hendricks will not pursue legal action. And as a gesture of goodwill, he will personally fund a music scholarship for Zara. $50,000. Any program she wants. Berkeley flashed in Zara's mind. Juilliard. Real training. Not just YouTube in a cramped bedroom. $50,000. And if she doesn't sign? Ms. Johnson asked. Kraft's smile thinned. Then we proceed. Defamation suits against Miss Williams, Jefferson Elementary, and you for failing to supervise her. Mr. Hendricks's planned donation of $500,000 to Jefferson's music program would also be reconsidered. The room seemed to tilt. "So let me be clear," he continued. "Sign this and everyone walks away better off, even. Or refuse and watch your school lose its funding while your family drowns in legal fees." He turned to Zara directly. "What happens next is up to you. Right here is where most adults fold, even when they know they're right. If you were 11, staring at a piece of paper that could fix your future but erase the truth, would you sign it to protect your family or tear it up? Tell me in the comments how you honestly think you'd react, not how you wish you would." Zara stared at the lines, at her own name waiting at the bottom, at the sentence that called her a liar. She thought about her little brothers needing shoes. Her mom worked nights so long her back hurt. The kids in her choir who'd lose their instruments if Chase pulled his money. "No," she said. Kraft blinked. "Excuse me." "I'm not signing," she whispered, then louder. "I didn't lie. He did. I'm not going to say I lied because he's rich and I'm not." "You don't understand the consequences," Kraft warned. "I understand you're trying to scare me," she said. Her hand shook, but she stood anyway. Looked him dead in the eye. "Do what you have to do. I'm not changing what happened." He closed his briefcase. "Then we'll see you in court," he said. "By tomorrow there will be stories. About you. About your family. Private things. Painful things. And when it gets bad, and it will get bad, Remember, you chose this. He left her with that. That night, Zara lay in bed listening to the sounds of the city, wondering how much damage telling the truth could really do. By sunrise, she had her answer. What do you think hurts more, being lied about by strangers or watching people you love pay for a truth they never even got to choose? Her phone started buzzing before the sun was up. Zara woke to a storm she didn't recognize, but the internet did. Her name. Everywhere. She grabbed her mom's old phone from the nightstand. Notifications blurred down the screen, so fast she couldn't read them. Don't go online, her mom said from the kitchen table, laptop open to a news site, her face pale. Baby, please. Too late. The first post she saw was a picture of their apartment building. Peeling paint, busted security gate, overflowing trash cans. Caption, asterisk, this is where perfect pitch, prodigy Zara Williams lives. You really think she's not chasing a payday accusing a Grammy winner of fraud? Asterisk. Her stomach dropped. The next was a screenshot of her mom's work schedule. Asterisk, her mom barely makes $30,000 a year. Of course they're looking for a cash grab. Asterisk. Then someone posted her school photo. Someone else found an old picture of her with a free lunch ticket circled. Asterisk, government assistance her whole life. This was never about the truth. It's about money. Asterisk. The comments were a flood of poison. Ungrateful brat. She should be thanking Chase for even letting her on stage. This is what happens when you give those people opportunities. Those people. Her hands went numb. By 9 a.m., there were reporters outside their building. Some just wanted a quote. Others wanted blood. Zara, did your mom put you up to it? Did you plan this to get attention? Are you going to apologize to Mr. Hendricks? At school it was worse. Jefferson Elementary had protesters. Grown adults holding signs, liar, fraud, leave Chase alone. Inside, the principal sat across from Zara and her mom, shoulders sagging. The board is considering suspending Zara, he said softly. For what? Her mom demanded. She told the truth. You saw the videos. Everyone did. We're getting threats, he said. Parents are calling nonstop. Hendricks' lawyers are threatening to sue the district for negligence. They're saying we allowed Zara to defame him at a school-sanctioned event. She wasn't even on school time, Ms. Johnson argued from corner. It was at night. She was there as part of our choir, the principal replied. Legally, that makes us responsible. I am sorry. I don't know if I can protect her. When they left through the back door to avoid the cameras, Zara's little brothers clung to her hands. Why are they mad at you? One asked. Did you do something bad? I just told the truth, she said. That afternoon, a man called claiming he was from Child Protective Services, saying they'd had reports that Zara's mom was exploiting her child. It was fake. It didn't matter. Every ring of the phone felt like another crack in walls around them. That night, Zara sat on her bed. Her mom perched beside her, eyes red. If you could take it back, her mom asked quietly, would you? Zara thought about the $50,000 scholarship she'd turned down. The suspension. The threats. The lawsuit papers a courier had dropped on their doormat that afternoon demanding $10 million in damages. No, she said finally. I wouldn't. Her mom closed her eyes, letting a tear fall. Then we fight, she whispered. I don't know how, but we fight. If you've ever watched someone stand up and then get hit from every direction for it, you know this part hurts more than the first blow. If seeing what it really costs to tell the truth makes you want to follow stories where people do it anyway, hit subscribe. Because Zara's about to find out she's not as alone as they wanted her to believe. At 7:15 the next morning, a video hit social media like a match in gasoline. A woman in her 30s sat in a small studio, gold records lining the back wall. My name is Sophia Mitchell, she said. I'm a session singer. And I'm the voice on Chase Hendricks' high notes. Zara's mom called from the kitchen. Baby, you need to see this. Within an hour, Sophia's confession had 2 million views. Within 3, 7 more singers had joined her. By noon, the narrative had flipped. What happens when a lie becomes too big for even the people paid to protect it to carry anymore? By the end of the week, it wasn't just a scandal. It was a reckoning. Sophia showed contracts on camera, NDAs, emails, raw studio files. I was 23, she said. They offered me $2,000 to sing the whistle notes on 5 songs. I thought it was my big break. Then they told me I'd never be credited. Additional vocals in fine print. I stayed quiet because I was scared. Then I saw an 11-year-old take the hit I should have taken years ago. Other session singers came forward. A man who'd ghost sung the chorus of a hit ballad. A woman whose harmonies were the backbone of 3 platinum albums. All of them paid well below what their work earned the star. All of them silenced by NDAs. Online, support for Zara surged. Hashtags calling to protect Zara trended alongside Chase exposed. Artists with massive platforms spoke up. Alicia Keys tweeted, *, believe that little girl. I've seen this happen too many times. *, John Legend offered to cover legal fees. But Chase didn't back down. Instead, his legal team went nuclear. They filed a $10 million defamation lawsuit against Zara, Sophia, Marcus Webb, and Jefferson Elementary. The goal wasn't to win. It was to scare them into silence. It's intimidation, an entertainment lawyer said on TV. He knows the truth is on their side. But courts are expensive. Time is expensive. Most people can't afford to fight. Zara's mom sat at the kitchen table, hands shaking over a stack of legal papers. We don't have money for a lawyer, she whispered. We barely have money for rent. How do you fight a man who can buy judges time by the hour? She didn't say. Then, at 7 a.m. the next morning, someone knocked on their door. A woman in her 40s stood in the hallway. Crisp suit, tired eyes, briefcase. Mrs. Williams? My name is Diana Carter. I'm an entertainment attorney. I'd like to represent your daughter. Pro bono. Zara's mom blinked. No charge. None, Diana said. Sophia retained our firm. When we heard Chase was suing an 11-year-old, 3 partners volunteered for Zara's case. May I come in? Within an hour, their wobbly kitchen table looked like a war room. This lawsuit is garbage, Diana said, flipping through pages. Defamation requires false statements. Everything Zara said was true. We respond with a motion to dismiss and a countersuit for fraud and false advertising. Maybe a class action on behalf of ticket holders. Make it too expensive for him to keep pushing. It was the first time since the gala that Zara saw her mom take a full breath. A little later, Ms. Johnson arrived, with Marcus Webb behind her. I wanted to check on you, he said, sitting across from Zara. He looked exhausted. Chase's lawyers came after me too. But I've been in this industry for 30 years. I've seen powerful people crush careers. And I've seen moments where regular people changed everything. He slid his phone across the table. Zara's name trended again. This time, the comments were mostly love. A GoFundMe had sprung up, not started by her family, but by parents at Jefferson and strangers across the country. Goal, $50,000 to replace Chase's pooled donation. It had already passed $300,000. I've never seen anything like this, Marcus said. If you've ever felt like telling the truth is pointless because nobody will stand with you, look at this moment. Would you expect this kind of support, or would you still assume you'd be abandoned? Be real about it in the comments, because most of us carry old stories about being on our own when it matters. Next came Rachel Goldstein from 60 Minutes. I want to do a story, she said. Not just on Chase. On the whole system that let this stand. The stolen credits. The NDAs. The way the industry treats voices like Zara and Sophia as disposable. I want to put this on national TV. Why? Zara's mom asked, suspicion edged with hope. I have a daughter your age, Rachel said. If someone tried to destroy her for telling the truth, I'd hope someone with a camera showed up. Sophia herself arrived that afternoon. Up close, she looked nothing like the nameless ghost vocal on Chase's album art. She looked human, nervous, relieved. I'm sorry, she told Zara. I should have spoken up 10 years ago. I told myself staying quiet was just business. Watching you up there, I realized it was cowardice. I was scared too, Zara said. I still am, Sophia admitted. But at least now we're scared together. The question was no longer whether the truth would come out. It was how much damage it would do on its way through the walls people like Chase had built. What happens when a child with nothing to lose hands a match to adults who've been standing in a room full of gasoline for years? The courtroom wasn't glamorous. No balconies. No velvet curtains. Just wood panel walls, a humming fluorescent light, and a weary bailiff telling people to rise. Los Angeles Superior Court, Department 23. Zara sat at the defense table with her feet not quite reaching the floor. She wore the same white blouse from a gala. It was still the nicest thing she owned. Across from her, Chase sat with 5 lawyers, a navy blazer, and a face that tried very hard to say wounded victim instead of cornered predator. This wasn't the full trial. This was a preliminary hearing. Chase's team was asking for an injunction to shut Zara, Sophia, and Marcus up, to legally gag them from talking about his voice ever again. Judge Patricia Moreno took the bench. A Latina woman in her 60s with 20 years of experience and very little patience for nonsense. Mr. Kraft, she said, looking at Chase's lead attorney, you're asking this court to silence an 11-year-old. The defendant's age doesn't negate the harm, Your Honor, Kraft said smoothly. Her false statements have. Were they false? The judge cut in. That's the core issue, isn't it? Kraft hesitated. The characterization of Mr. Hendrix's use of standard industry. Yes or no, counselor, Judge Moreno said. Can you tell this court the statements she made were untrue? He swallowed. We believe they were misleading. Not what I asked. Across the aisle, Diana stood. Your Honor, we have evidence. I'd like to submit an unedited video from the gala. They watched it all. Chase yanking Zara into the spotlight. His whisper, fail quietly, kid. His crack on the note when the track was cut. Zara's performance. Marcus's confession. Sophia's video. When it ended, the room was heavy. Mr. Kraft, Judge Moreno said quietly, do you have any evidence that Miss Williams lied? He shuffled papers he knew wouldn't help. No, Your Honor. But the intent. Miss Carter, the judge said, turning to Diana, do you have evidence backing her claims? Yes, Your Honor, Diana said. Contracts. Frequency analyses. Witnesses. We can call Ms. Mitchell. Let's keep this simple, Judge Moreno said. She fixed her gaze on Chase. Mr. Hendrix, you're not on the stand, but you are in my courtroom. You claim you can sing this note. Sing it. Right now. The air snapped. Your Honor, I fail to see how, Kraft began. I do, she said. You're asking me to silence speech about a specific fact, whether this man can hit this note. We'll resolve that question. All eyes went to Chase. He shifted, cleared his throat. My voice isn't warmed up, he said. I can't just. You've been just hitting it on stage for 15 years, the judge replied. Surely you can demonstrate it once. Silence. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Motion denied, Judge Moreno said. This suit is an attempt to bully citizens, including a child, for describing reality. That is not what this court is for. If you wish to proceed to trial, you may. But Miss Williams is free to continue speaking the truth. Her gavel came down. Outside, the cameras were waiting. Reporters blasted out the clip of the judge asking him to sing, and his terrified silence. 60 Minutes aired Rachel's piece that Sunday. 18 million viewers watched studio files overlaid with waveforms. They saw Sophia's voice match the album. They heard engineers describe vocal doubles and sweetening and NDAs. They watched as Rachel asked Chase on camera, will you sing the note now? And saw him refuse. If seeing a judge look a powerful man in the eye and say, no, you don't get to bully a child into shutting up, is the kind of real-world justice you want more of in your feed, hit subscribe. Because what follows isn't just one man's fall, it's a whole system being forced to face a sound it can't mute. By the end of the episode, Chase's last sponsors had pulled out. His record label parted ways. His Vegas residency was quietly canceled. The Recording Academy announced it was reviewing certain awards in light of new information about uncredited vocal performances. The story was no longer, did he fake a note? It was, how many voices have been stolen so one man could sing? When a first-class action suit from ticket buyers landed on his doorstep, claiming they'd paid to hear a voice that was never really there, it was clear. This wasn't going away. What does a man who's always controlled the narrative do when the truth has receipts and its own hashtag? 3 months later, the empire was gone. Chase quietly filed for bankruptcy. Court documents revealed what the headlines translated for the world. Refunds to tens of thousands of ticket holders, settlements with session singers, penalties from sponsors. His mansion went on the market. His cars. his studio gear. Even his Grammy trophies didn't survive untouched. The Recording Academy did something it had never done before. It revoked both awards, citing fraudulent representation of vocal performance. He tried a comeback tour 6 months later, unplugged and unfiltered. No backing tracks, no tricks, just the real voice of Chase Hendrix. He sold about 11% of the tickets. Reviews were brutal. Without studio magic, Hendrix's voice is fine, one critic wrote, which might have been enough if he hadn't built a career pretending to be supernatural. But this story was never supposed to be about his fall. It was about what rose in the silence he left behind. Labels flooded Zara's inbox with offers. Bigger advances than her mom had ever seen in her life. Promises of fame, tours, sponsorships. Her mom said no to all of them. She's 12, she told one executive over Zoom. She still shares a room with her brothers. She does homework at the kitchen table. She doesn't need to be your next product yet. Instead, Zara signed with a small, black-owned independent label. The contract was like nothing the majors had offered. No albums required until she turned 16. Creative control written in real words, not slippery collaboration clauses. Ownership of her masters. And one more thing Zara insisted on. 15% of everything she made would go into a fund. She called it Unbreakable Voices. The idea was simple. Use her sudden platform to make sure no other singer had to choose between a paycheck and their name. The fund paid for vocal lessons, music theory classes, and, crucially, basic legal education for young artists from poor neighborhoods. 50 scholarships in year 1. 200 by year 3. Her first single wasn't a flex. It was a confession. She called it My Own Voice. She wrote it with Sophia, who, for the first time, was writing for herself, not for some invisible star. The video didn't take place in a mansion or on a yacht. It opened in a small church. Then her crowded apartment. Then the hallways of Jefferson Elementary, places where her voice had always been real. By the last chorus, she stood on a community center stage, surrounded by dozens of kids. Different races, different shapes, different hair. All singers, all named in the credits, all on camera. The song went gold in 6 weeks. In the background, the industry rearranged itself around what had happened. California passed Assembly Bill 2847, nicknamed Zara's Law. Promoters now had to disclose when pre-recorded vocals were used in a show. Tickets that advertised live singing had to mean it. Violations counted as consumer fraud. Within 18 months, 12 other states passed their own versions. Spotify and Apple Music added full credit tabs to each track, listing every vocalist, not just the star. A session singers union formed. 2,000 members in the first year. They negotiated minimum rates, mandatory credit, royalty participation, legal support when artists tried to bury them under NDAs. 47 established artists voluntarily went back through their catalogs, updating liner notes to properly credit ghost singers and backing vocalists. Sophia released her own album. It won a Grammy. On stage, holding the trophy, she said, "I was too scared to claim my voice for 15 years. An 11-year-old girl showed me what courage looks like. This is for both of us." Meanwhile, Jefferson Elementary's music program, once at risk of being gutted, now had more funding than any school in the district. The GoFundMe had blown past $800,000. New instruments, 2 extra music teachers, a scholarship in Ms. Johnson's name. She got offers from arts academies. She turned them down. "My kids are here," she said simply. "I'm staying." 1 year after the gala, Zara walked onto the Grammy stage. Not as a prop, as the main act. She wore a simple dress. No dancers, no pyrotechnics. Just herself and Sophia at the piano. She sang My Own Voice. When she hit the final C6, perfectly, honestly, the entire arena stood. Not because it was impossible, because everyone knew they were finally hearing exactly what and who was in front of them. If you'd watched that performance knowing where she started, would you have heard just a great note or a quiet revolution? And if you've ever thought your voice was too small to matter, what does watching her do this make you question your own story? 18 months after a man tried to use her as a punchline, Zara still took the bus. She still lived in the same apartment in Compton, heater only working in one room. Her brothers still fought over controllers. On most Sundays, she stood back in the second row at New Hope Baptist, singing with the same choir where Ms. Johnson first heard something unusual in a 7-year-old's voice. Fame didn't magically fix everything. The lawsuit settlements took time. The laws were still new and incomplete. Not every artist changed. Not every ghost singer felt safe to come forward. But something fundamental had shifted. In studios, young singers now asked to see contracts twice. Managers thought carefully before offering NDAs. Fans read credits. And somewhere a producer offering a small check for a temp vocal on a chorus now had to answer one simple question. Are you going to put my name on it? All because one night in one theater, an 11-year-old refused to say she was lying when she wasn't. Remember that first moment? The famous singer pointed at the black girl in the back with the cheap uniform. The expectation that she'd come up, crack, prove his point, and disappear back into the shadows while his halo stayed polished? He thought he was teaching her about power, about knowing her place. He didn't understand that courage doesn't always look like a shout. Sometimes it looks like a small hand refusing to sign a piece of paper. Sometimes it sounds like a quiet, shaking voice saying, "No, that's not what happened." And sometimes it tastes like the dry air you swallow just before you open your mouth and decide for yourself that your truth matters more than their comfort. Today, Chase teaches music business at an online for-profit college. He films promo videos most people skip after 5 seconds. His name, once shorthand for vocal perfection, is now a case study in how far someone will go to protect a lie. Zara is 13. She does algebra homework. She argues with her brothers about who left the dishes. She forgets on some days that she once changed an industry. That's the thing about real courage. It doesn't feel like a movie when you're living it. It feels like fear and then a choice. Again and again. So here's the real question this story leaves you with. If you'd been in that theater when he grabbed her arm, when the lawyer slid that paper across the table, when the threat started, would you have stepped up and stood next to her? Or would you have looked away, grateful it wasn't your life on fire? You don't have to answer out loud. But you do have to answer honestly to yourself. Because somewhere in your own life, there's a smaller version of this moment coming. A room where everyone's comfortable with a lie. A person with more power than you who benefits from your silence. When that moment shows up, will you remember a scared 11-year-old in a white blouse, standing under hot lights, deciding that her voice was worth more than a millionaire's ego? And when you do, what will you choose to sing? If you want more stories that don't just entertain you, but dare you to answer questions like that, subscribe now. Not for me, but so that the next time you're standing at your own microphone, you'll remember you're not the only one who ever decided to tell the truth when it cost the most.